PlantGrads initiative. And today we are really excited to launch this initiative with this very important topic. It's grad school application seasons after all. And we will kick off the webinar by sort of describing what the initiative is and how it started. And we will do that with our founder, Dr. Sunil. And then Isabel will sort of tell you about what our aims are and how you can help and contribute towards the network. And then we will have three great panelists who are experts in sort of grad school admission, who will give you some insights on how to submit successful applications. And so with that, Sunil, take it away and tell us about, how did PlantGrad start in the first place?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Susan. I think in 2019, Arif was also a panelist on this webinar, and I started Plant Postdocs. So the idea was that we need to create resources and a community for our career development, whether it's jobs in academia or industry or even in nonprofits. We wanted to provide resources for everyone so that we can level the playing field about the information that is needed to create these applications. And along with that, we also started a lot of career development activities through the Plant Postdocs, such as giving awards and then providing platform for postdocs to share their research. And then we constantly started getting questions from graduate students on asking how they can get a good postdoc position to position themselves for their career in academia or in industry. And then also from undergraduates asking how can they navigate the application system for graduate schools in US or in other countries. So with that, I thought, okay, maybe we should expand Plant Postdocs, and instead of just creating another group within the Plant Postdocs, we thought of starting PlantGrads with the amazing leadership team members, so that we can again create the resources and then have webinars and then provide some sort of mentoring to students, undergraduate students, and even graduate students across the world, and try to help them in navigating both the application for grad school, but also how can they position themselves to get a great postdoc position or position in the industry. So that was the reason behind starting PlantGrads. And I think Isabel will talk about how the leadership team have thought about the best ways to provide these resources and mentoring to everyone across the globe.
Yeah, thank you, Sunil. So yes, basically, we are a community that is designed to support graduate students, whether they're prospective students currently applying or current graduate students currently in plant science career. Our leadership team is very diverse in, we all come from different backgrounds, and we have firsthand experience in applying to grad school because we all are graduate students currently. So our leadership team currently is made up by Sessen, Nikki, Patrick, myself, and we also have the guidance from our advisor. Her name is Ariadna, and she is also a member of the Plant Postdoc community. So, sorry. There we go. So we want to be able to support you through both as a prospective student by bringing bridging gap in resources. Many students like us lack access to mentors or networks that can guide us through the grad school application process, and that is hard enough as it is. So with PlantGrads, the idea is to fulfill this gap by sharing those resources and a platform for students to ask questions and share knowledge. And by offering webinars like this, sharing access to a folder with resources about how to build a statement of purpose or a resume, the point is to make the application process easier. Since it is overwhelming enough as it is, You know, we want to be able to make it so that it's easier for people to get through it, whether you're an international student or a domestic student. That is kind of the point. And we'll talk more about what platforms we currently have. But yes, that is the idea. We're like a twofold community where there's the prospective student part as well as the current students. So for current students, we also, you know, with Slack, we want to offer this platform for people to connect and share their experiences. As a graduate student, really, we want to really emphasize that this shoot is going to be a safe space to talk about the challenges of grad school in a way where, you know, what is said in, you know, in our Slack channel will not be shared with people or your advisors or anyone else. And by offering this platform, we also want to encourage collaboration and peer support and networking so that we are able to allow students to learn from each other's experiences and successes. But, you know, this space is going to be one where you cannot, when you will not only be able to, you know, seek help, but also guide others, offer your guidance to others. So this is currently the sites where you can find us. So, you know, if you can contact us at PlantGrads@gmail.com, and you can also follow us on our Twitter. But the platform that I was talking about is our Slack channel. And to be a part of our Slack channel, just send us a your CV to our email address. It doesn't mean that you're going to be like, we're not selecting based off of your CV. We just want to make sure that you know, people who are reaching out is, you know, are doing so for the right reasons, essentially. And yeah. So yeah, this was all about PlantGrads, but you know, if you have any questions, please reach out. With that, I'm gonna give it back to Sasan to tell you more about the agenda for today.
Awesome. Thank you, Isabel, and Sunil for introducing PlantGrads. So now we will get to the webinar part, and we have three great speaker panelists. We have Dr. Jennifer Clark from University of Nebraska-Lincoln, Dr. Bonmiet from the School of Biological Sciences at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, and Dr. Arif Ashraf from Howard University, who will provide insights on how to successfully apply for a grad school. We will, each panelist will have a maximum of 10 minutes to sort of share their own perspectives, and then we will open the floor for any questions you might have. And I also encourage you to drop questions in the chat in the meantime. And so with that, I will head it over to Nikki, who will introduce Dr. Jennifer Clark.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nikki Shrestha. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jennifer Clark. She is chair of the Complex Biosystem program, which I'm part of. This is a PhD program, and she's going to talk about mostly about the perspective from the administrative graduate admission committee, what they look for when students apply for a PhD program, and what students should be focusing on in their application. And it's up to you now.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm
gonna stop sharing. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm like, ooh, I can share. I don't have a lot of slides, but I thought a few slides can be helpful. So it's really just to guide the conversation. Nikki, please keep an eye on questions for me, because I have trouble multitasking, like keep talking and keeping track. So if something comes up in chat or you have a question, raise your hand and I'll try to address those. So as Nikki said, I'm a director of the PhD program in complex biosystems in Nebraska. This is a little bit different of a program because it's an interdisciplinary program and it covers multiple areas of science. The driver behind the program was to give graduate students, doctoral students, advanced training in data and life sciences. So one of the tracks is for plants. We also have a track for microbiology, and we have a track for people in bioinformatics, and we have a track for, like more biomedical sciences. So the way I wanted to focus this was first to say, like, it's great to come to Nebraska to study plants because we're a big ag state and we love plants. But yeah, okay, those are cows, not plants, but that's okay. Living things, we love living things. But there were some questions that you guys had and that Nikki sent to me. So I wanted to focus on those questions. So this is not an ad for the program. This is to give you information, generally speaking, because my philosophy towards grad students and also students looking for postdocs is find the program and the position that works best for you. If it turns out it's in Nebraska, fantastic. I'm delighted, right? It may not be, right? There are great programs out there, and it is not a one size fits all. So, I'm going to spend these 10 minutes going through your questions, and I'll try to give you the best answers, knowing that programs vary. So this is kind of from my perspective and how grad programs work where I am. It might not necessarily apply to all programs. So that's kind of my disclaimer. Okay. First question was, what are the most important things students should focus on when applying to graduate school? So my answer is number one, do your homework. Number two, focus on what your strengths are, right? As I said, not all programs, even if you restrict yourself to the plant sciences, are the same, right? We all have different strengths, weaknesses, areas of more advanced research, areas of research that are in development, right? So really has to match what you would like to do, right? So you have to do a little bit of soul searching first, like, okay, what have I done as an undergraduate? What were the things that I enjoyed? What drives me as a student? Because grad school or postdoc, they are demanding, they're intensive, they're great, they're fun. You do a lot, you learn a lot. But if you're going to do it from a research perspective and you're thinking about a PhD or postdoc, it's an investment of your time and effort. So you want to pick something that seems cool to you, right? Where you're like, oh, this thing is really exciting. I really want to learn more about this. So you have to do a little bit of searching for yourself. What do you like to do? What do you love? And then learn about those programs, right? So find out as much information as you can about programs. Talk to your peers, talk to your advisors, do a web search. When if you're at a conference or you're at a seminar, talk to those people, find out what their grad programs are like. Ask questions, right? So first advice is try to find as much information as you can, and don't hesitate to contact a program if you have a question, right? What gets you the best response from a program, honestly, is if you've done some homework yourself. If you email me and you say, I'm a student and I'm interested in plant science, can you tell me all about your program and your deadlines and expectations? I'm like, dude, go to the webpage. I will point you to the webpage, right? If there's stuff that's confusing, right? Because our webpage is not always completely up to date, you have other specific questions, I will spend more than enough time to answer those, and I will point you in the right direction, right? Pay attention to the application requirements and the deadlines, right? As a program, there's only so much I can do if your application is not complete. Right? So our grad college has certain expectations, and I can poke you and I can get you to submit stuff, and I can try to make your application complete, and I can try to remind you of deadlines, but to some extent, it is your responsibility to get your application in and get it complete and on time so that programs can give you full consideration for your application. So make sure you're paying attention to what are the application requirements and what are those deadlines. Okay. Next. Should students reach out to an advisor before applying to a graduate program? Is it more likely for students to get accepted in the grad program when they have an advisor? In our case, yes and yes, most likely, right? So I would say absolutely reach out to potential advisors before and after you apply. Programs will have information on their web pages about their faculty who participate. If there's a faculty member on a campus who you really want to work with, reach out to them, share some information about yourself, ask them if they're willing to talk with you, ask them which grad programs that they participate in, because some campuses have several that are related to plant sciences. That relationship with your advisor for a PhD program that's research focused is really important. And it's also important as a postdoc, right? Is that relationship with your advisor. And all advisors have different styles. Some advisors are very hands-on. They will want to meet with you every week. After a while, they start to drive you nuts because you have to meet with them every week, right? Other advisors are very hands-off and really give you a lot of freedom to decide your topic, when you're going to do certain benchmarks during your program. So styles vary, and the way you have to know kind of the way you work. If you want an advisor who's going to be on you every week and checking in, and then that's a certain style. If you like more of the hands-off and more freedom to choose your things, but then also taking more responsibility for meeting the requirements, that's a different style. Visit the program if you can. Ask to talk to current students, because the grad students will have a different perspective than the faculty, right? So if you're really interested in working with someone and they say, yeah, I'm looking for a grad student, I would love for you to join the lab, it's perfectly fine to meet with them and then ask if you can, meet with one of their students, right? To find out kind of what it's like on the ground. Perfectly fine. Yes, for most programs, you're more likely to get accepted if you have an advisor who is willing to accept you. That's not true in all programs, but that's true in most programs. Because most programs that are PhD research active, they depend on a research assistantship from your advisor. So yes, it helps if you have an advisor identified. Okay, 3. And Nikki, make sure I stay on time. If I don't, let me go over 10 minutes.
Yes, I think, sorry, Jennifer,
Yep,
I think we can have 2 more minutes and then
okay, perfect.
we can have, thank you.
Great. I'll do this question and then we can save the other stuff for later. That's fine. Okay. If the advisor doesn't have funding, can the student get a teaching assistantship through the grad school? Is there some other way to support yourself? This varies a lot by program. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, right? So as an example, for our program in Nebraska, I can ask participating departments if they have a teaching assistantship open for a grad student, right? And I can say, would you consider having a student in our program fulfill those responsibilities, right? And I can go around campus and ask. And so, yes, we have students who time and again will be on a teaching assistantship for a semester. Perfectly fine. Not every program has that option, right? Some programs are strictly research assistants. So you might be able to get an assistantship from a different faculty member for a while, right, to work on one of their projects, and then still do your dissertation work with your advisor. Sometimes that's a possibility. Sometimes there are other opportunities on campus. For example, we have an office of patents and tech transfer, which sometimes employs graduate students as assistants to work in their offices, right? So sometimes there's other options for support, but that's something to ask when you're joining a program. You know, what is the funding, and how long is the funding guaranteed? And if there's a lapse in an assistantship, are there other options on the campus? Okay, I will now pass it to my other panelists for their insight, and I will stop sharing.
Thank you, Jennifer. But we'll have open discussion at the end where you will be able to answer, and where you will also be able to have questions that you might have missed.
Sure, happy to do so.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jennifer, for those insights. And yes, I highlight one thing that you pointed out, that a lot of things are very program dependent. And so you really, really need to do your homework. And in fact, now we will hear from Mon, who is the Associate Dean at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, which is the program I am in, which has a very different structure from what you've heard now, and some unique features to it. And Mon will tell you more about it. But Mon, just as a prompt that might help in application for this type of program, one of the questions that we have is, if my degree is in another field, but I want to get into the biological sciences, what is the best way to do that, and how should I better portray that in my personal statement? And I feel that this is a question that all of us who have applied to an interdisciplinary program at Cold Spring Harbor at the School of Biological Sciences had. So yes, if you could provide your perspectives on it.
Sure, I'll be happy to. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Mon. And let's see. So Cold Spring Harbor, it's a research institute, but we have a lot of educational programs, one of which is the PhD program that Sesson was referring to. It's a small program. We take about 9 to 10 students a year, and overall, we have about 50 students. So, if you're trying to picture Cold Spring Harbor Lab, it's not a big university. We have about 53 research faculty. So our program, as Sesson mentioned already, is different and unique from many of the other graduate programs you may find. One of the questions in the chat, which I'll get to before the topic Sesson brought up, is this separating coursework and research, right? So in our program, when students arrive in August, you only do coursework between August and December. You do not even step foot in a lab. You don't do your rotations. It's only coursework. And then between January and May, you start your 3 rotations, which is about 6 weeks long, which is considerably shorter than other graduate programs. So that's kind of how we do it. A lot of programs you find do combine rotations and coursework at the same time. So you're doing both at the same time. And then some programs, rotations can be 10 weeks. Like you kind of find the whole gamut, right? And so you really have to do your homework and figure out what your life is going to be like if you were to join that program. So then the second question Sesson brought up, which is, if you want to get into biological sciences and you don't have the background, or you're concerned about the background, what you're bringing, in our program, we take students from all academic backgrounds. And just stepping back a little bit about Cold Spring Harbor Lab, we actually don't have departments. Right? So we have 53 faculty with 5 research areas. There's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of intersection of disciplines. So in our graduate program, the PhD that you will get that says on your diploma is a PhD in biological sciences. But you can come in with, let's say, an engineering background, applied math background, psychology background, right? And all students take the same courses, and we provide a lot of support, which I can get into later, as to how you can manage this coursework that you may not have a background in, or very little background. So that's kind of how we do it, in that we accept students of all academic backgrounds. You can think of our program as a very small umbrella program, right? Like you can rotate and join any faculty's lab, regardless of what discipline they're working in. I hope that answers the question. Yeah. So just to keep in time, I don't want to say too much about our PhD program. Let me see if I can share slides. The first thing I want to share is that if you, let's see, you see, if you do want to find out more about our program, we have a virtual open house this Saturday where you can learn a whole lot more about our PhD program, right? And I can send this to you, Sesson, if you want to share it with the group later, right? So I'm going to close this. And in the time that's left, what I want to go over, can you all see this? Yeah. Okay. So we don't have an undergraduate population, but we have a long-standing summer undergraduate program with 20 undergrads that come every summer. So I do a workshop with them on graduate school application because a lot of those participants are rising seniors thinking about going to graduate school. And then we also have a very new prep post-bac program, right? And so I do a series of workshops with the post-bacs as well. So the slides you're going to see what I use for those workshops. And again, because of time, I'm going to go a little bit quickly because I just want to make you aware of a few things that you should be thinking about as we enter October. Again, I'm happy to share this whole slide deck if I don't get to it, and that, Sesson, you can send out afterwards, right? Okay. So we're October 2nd, right? You're thinking about graduate schools. So I kind of broke it up into like, how do you even go about identifying which programs do you want to apply to, right? And then there's the personal statement, which is a very important part of your application, right? And personal statements, the prompts for the personal statements will vary from program to program. So really read them carefully and address them. Like our program, I find is like the easiest application because it's one personal statement. You click that upload button and you're done. Right. But having, so I direct the prep post-bac program as well. And the first cohort was last year, we had 5. So I helped each of them apply to graduate school. So last fall, I felt like I applied to 50 graduate programs myself. And what I found was that different from the time that, decades ago when I applied, there's a lot more to the application now. Right. So there's a lot of programs that ask for many things, like, many essays. If you got $1 million, what kind of research would you spend it on? Right. So anyway, so personal statement, very important. CV, think well about who you're going to ask for rec letters. Right. And then this idea of whether you're going to reach out to potential research mentors or not. So right now, what you should be trying to do is to generate that list of which programs you're going to apply to, right? And so in trying to make that decision, these are some of the things you should consider. So of course, at the very top of the list is research, right? You want to apply to a program or a university because of the kind of research that's done there, right? You may be thinking about reputation, right? And so you have to keep in mind, in terms of reputation at the graduate level works quite different from at the undergraduate level. So when you apply to undergrad, you're thinking, what's your reach? What's your safety, right? But in grad school, there's the university and then there's graduate programs within the university, right? So there can be multiple programs within one university. So you kind of have to change your mindset in terms of grad school application. So then there's funding, meaning, and also, what the stipend is, right? And that can run the gamut as to what your stipend is going to be. So go and spend a lot of time on that website. And the best thing to do that I tell, prospective applicants is start creating a Google Doc, right? Have different columns for university, one column, programs within the university, the other column, and stipend could be one column, right? And of course, stipend would differ whether you're in New York City, right? And so that link over there will tell you like what the cost of living is in different cities, right? You also want to look at what is the curriculum, right? Because some programs will be umbrella programs, umbrella meaning that there are many disciplines, many faculty that feed into that program. So if you're not not entirely sure who you want to work for, or whether it's plant or not, then an umbrella program may be for you, right? But then, what are the courses that you are required to take, and what are the elective courses? So you want to find out that information. So when you apply to graduate school, you have to think of it as training. And you may be thinking like, yeah, of course it's training, but really there's more that goes into graduate training than just the PhD thesis work that you're going to do, right? What kind of professional development courses are they going to give you? Workshops? What kind of career development are they going to? How are they going to prepare you for the job that you want at the end of your PhD or the postdoc that you want to get, right? So you have to think of the 5 or 6, however many years that you're going to spend as a graduate student as the training program. And not a lot of undergraduates come into it thinking that way, right? Then of course, if location is important for you, then definitely consider that. So I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to keep going until you tell me to stop. Okay. Okay.
Let's
So
say
then,
we'll have 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes. Okay. All right. I think I'm good. So okay, so I'm going to go back to this hypothetical Google Doc, right? Because it's so important to organize your thoughts that way, because it's going to be overwhelming, right? And you're going to have to narrow down how many programs you're going to apply to and all that. So once you know which university, which program, you should try and find at least 3 potential mentors that you may want to rotate in, right? And that's because you don't want to join a program based on just one person, right? Because that person may not be taking students the year you're there, or that person may pick up and move, right? And so you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're like, okay, what do I do now? So how do you identify potential research mentors? Obviously, you can go to the published literature, look at the papers that excite you, look at a list of speakers at conferences, right? And then backtrack from there. You're all young people, much younger than me, so you are much savvier at social media. So go on social media, find out what they're tweeting about or Xing about, I don't know, whatever you want to say, okay? There's also scientific societies, right? So look at who are the members of the societies like. So that's how you kind of start identifying who are the people that you are excited about working with, being trained under, which programs they're affiliated with. And I use the word affiliation because remember, a faculty member can be affiliated with multiple graduate programs within a university, right? And so you can get that information from the website, if not, emailing program administrators or the PIs themselves, right? I'm not going to talk a lot about the personal statement, but you can take a look at these slides in your own time and think about how you would want to structure your personal statement, because the personal statement should have structure, right? But the main thing, and it breaks it down into like, you talk about your experiences, but they have to be concrete, right? So because this is your way of telling the admissions committee who you are and why they should accept you, right? And so you want to do a good job at portraying those things, right? So you want to give them concrete examples, let's say, of your experience, but not just that, but what did that experience mean to you, right? So you don't want to just list like, I was an intern here, I spent my summer in this REU. You want to think about how collectively those experiences gave you meaning that propelled you to apply to graduate school. And then a little bit about match and fit, meaning, like why you are a good candidate for that particular program, right? And this breaks it down. I'm not going to go through this, right? So then, you're also allowed to submit your CV or resume. Again, give concrete quantified experience examples, and those are in there. So now just keep in mind, right, personal statements and any essay prompts that you have to write do have word limits. They're not going to allow you to just go on and on, right? So anything that you can put in your CV, put it there, because most CVs don't have a word limit. I mean, you don't want to be sending them like 10 pages of your CV, right? But, to list out like all the activities you did, whether it's research related or not research related, you can do that in the CV and then save the space in your personal statement to make a case of like, what those experiences meant for you and why you're a good fit for the program. Recommendation letters, right? So besides the personal statement, I find the recommendation letters are very important. So you have to also think carefully about who you want to ask for rec letters. Now is the good time to reach out to those people, provide them with information, right? So in some cases, it might be a person that you haven't really been in touch with for like 2-3 years. So even if they've agreed to write a letter for you, you want to give them information by yourself. So send them your personal statement, even if it's a draft, your CV, your transcript, feed them information. There's nothing wrong with feeding them information, right? You're doing them a favor, because sometimes I've had to write letters for somebody that I interacted with 4 years ago. I don't remember them, but then like if they give you information, it helps with the letter writing. So they will appreciate that, right? So give them an update, highlight what skills you've gained since you last interacted with them. And then explain to them, if there's a program you're really excited about, why you're a good fit for that program and why you're really excited about that program. And this idea of, whether you should reach out, right, to potential research mentors or not, I find that a lot of people do, right? You do want to be careful in helping the postbacks last year. There are some programs on the website that will say, please do not reach out to faculty members, right? So if you find that, obviously don't reach out. Right. But if you don't see that, then by all means reach out, but it has to be meaningful, right? You shouldn't do it very generically. It should be somebody whose research you're really interested in. You've read 1 or 2 of their papers. And so, this email format kind of gives you an idea of how to like put together that email. Because if that email, let's say, leads to a Zoom, because nowadays it's very easy to Zoom, just be ready, right? Because it's every opportunity you have, you're trying to make an impression. So go into it having done your homework as to why you're reaching out to them. And then this is more like, okay, when you do actually talk to them, how should you prepare yourself? So I'm not going to detail about this. And that's it. I'm going to stop sharing.
Awesome. Great.
How did I do for time?
Thank you so much, Mon. I think we're right on time now, and we have like more questions coming in the chat, and keep those questions coming. We'll go through the Q&A later.
Okay.
And now I will leave it to Pratik, who will introduce our last panelist for the day, Professor Arif Ashra.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Arif Ashra, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Biology at the Howard University. He also runs his laboratory focused on studying how plants respond to environmental challenges in a bigger picture, and like how a cell responds to variable growth conditions across the species. Arif received his PhD from Iwate University, Japan, and did his postdoc at the University of Massachusetts Amherst in the United States. And you will know Arif very well if you have tuned into his podcast, No Time to Read podcast series, which I very much enjoy listening to. I highly recommend if you haven't tuned into this. And he's very actively involved in plant science community, and one of the co-founders of the Plant Postdocs, which has successfully grown and has a very wider community presence now. Today, Arif will talk about the biology program, graduate program at the Howard University, as well as biology admission process in general. And thanks for being here, Arif. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Pratik, and thanks to the PlantGrads initiatives. I'm super excited to see it's coming along. So I listened last 2 panelists. I think they covered all of the important aspects. So I'll do something different. I'll take you to the behind the scene and give you a walkthrough how the selection process looks like. So I joined to the Howard University as a biology department. So what it means, the plant is a section of many of the things we study, or the graduate students study here. And I actually involved in the graduate selection committee from the very beginning. So I felt like whatever I learned last 1 year, probably I can give you some perspective on that. So one of the main things for some programs like Howard Biology program is finding the mentor. So selecting the mentor is super important. You might wonder like why you guys don't have the rotation program. So here's the thing, a biology department, people study someone like me, plant, you will find a lab with the C. elegans, fruit flies, virus, cancer cell line, crocodile, anything and everything. So what is the problem? If you're interested in the plant, probably there are only 3 faculties, and there is not all the labs are hiring at the same time in the same round. So it is super important to find and selecting the mentor. And then if you just go and apply, you'll find out that there is you have to submit all the required documents. And one of the super important things when I was in the part of the committee that which I didn't pay much attention, there is always 2 deadlines, early and late. What does it mean? I can tell you. So when you see that early deadline is, let's say, for example, like Howard or any other department like Howard, let's say December 1st. So the graduate student, graduate program actually collect all the application and send only the biology specific applications to us. And that means all the early applications actually graded or ranked early. And that means we actually go through all of these things as a part of the committee in January. And what we consider on that, your GPA, did you have a master's or not, which probably doesn't vary much. We don't need the GRE anymore. And then we look at whether you have research experience, did you publish something, and all of these things actually go in consideration. And on top of that, we have another column that whether you already contacted somebody in the department, and let's say someone asks me and identify me as a mentor, and the committee will ask that, this is the candidate you are looking for. And that will be like super important. The reason is that if the program admits you and after coming here, you are not finding the suitable lab, and unfortunately you have to master's out after 2 or 3 years, no one wants that, not the program, nor you. And for this, like selecting the mentor is super important at the beginning. And what happens by this, from the early application, we actually send out by the January, February that, okay, these are the 5 or 8 candidates we want to hire or want to recruit. And then we give them a month to decide. And the reason is that we totally understand this is not the only program you applied to some other programs, and then you need time to make a decision because you are actually considering many of these things. And then it brings us back to what happens to the late applications, right? For example, you submitted the application after December 1st, so we receive your application later, and by this time we're already ranked, and your application is not ranked, it's just pending. And in the meantime, as we have many conversation about that, you can keep asking your mentor, but it doesn't speed up the process because he applied late. And with this, again, I'll emphasize very heavily on the deadlines. And let's say you got early applications done and you got early acceptance, and then you are thinking, is it a good move if I accept that offer, or should I wait and see what happens to the other places? Probably there are some other high-ranked university. So here's the issue. So there are some fellowships involved in your first few years, the first year or second year. You will always have the TS-ship and your PI's grant, all of these things. But if you decide early that, okay, I want to accept an offer from Howard or universities like that, so they have the first or second year fellowship. That actually helps you to secure this fellowship if you apply early. So what I'll do right now, I'll keep talking, but I'll just go and let's say it's a kind of a quick walkthrough. You don't know much about Howard and stuff, but you want to just apply to universities like that. There are most important thing during the application to find the people or the point of contact. So this is how biology department looks like. You can just directly jump into the graduate studies. And when you go there, you'll see that there is one faculty who is basically the chair of the graduate committee, which I'm part of. And then, so you at least now know that, okay, there is a person I can actually reach out to, a professor who can help me if I have a question. And also there is like a graduate coordinator as well. At the same time, you can just go to that list of the things you need. What is the requirement? They have the faculty member list. So from there, you start reaching out to them and you start preparing kind of like a checklist that, okay, these are the things I need, and go with that. So there are some of the things didn't get updated. Like, of course, if you're an international student, you need TOEFL, but the GRE is not anymore requirement, but somewhere is still in the website, it says the GRE. So don't worry about that. And other thing is that, very important, you need to survive. You need to think about the stipend and where you are living and the stuff. So look, we as a faculty always push very hard to make sure the graduate students get higher pay. But what is currently for Howard or many institutions you should look at, like Howard pays like $24K for 9 months to the TS-ship. And when they give you admission, for the next 5-6 years, it's kind of guaranteed. They calculate the budget, and based on that, you're giving admission. And for the summer, it will come for your PIS grant, and usually the sum on the pay is higher because it's come from the PIS grant, and it altogether goes up to like 35 or 36K. But here is some other things. If you're a smart graduate student, you should always think very carefully. This is just the internal funding of the graduate assistantship and the money I just mentioned. But once you get the acceptance, and as I say, like if you go in early and accept the offer, so there are some internal fellowship which you don't have to face a lot of competition, and those supports you first 1 or 2 years. What does it mean? You have very less stress as a graduate student first 1 or 2 years. You don't have to, what is a typical scenario? You join a program, you have to join your own course, you have to rotate, or you have to go to the lab, you have to be a TA, so it's like a lot of things going on. At the same way, at the end of the program, there are some other fellowship that actually supports when you're towards your graduation. At the same time, again, many of these funding sources are not very democratic in many ways. So there are some external funding sources like GRFP and through the NIH and stuff. But most of those things actually require like the green card holder or for the citizenship. So I also had to go through many of these things in my life. So one of the things I'll suggest to, if I summarize these things, try to find a mentor, because what happens, a mentor is not only help you for the advocate you for application, but for instance, someone applied to me, and then when they're applying, I asked them, okay, write to the graduate coordinator to waive your application fee. And on that case, I can just ask them, oh, can you waive? So most of the cases it get waived for the application fee. So if I summarize, if there's an early deadline, make sure you apply early. There is no penalty for applying early, but there is issues if you apply late. And the mentor you actually confirm, keep in touch with him or her over the time, because they can actually update you, whether the graduate committee actually meet to make a decision or not. And like when will be tentative time, they will actually let you know. I think I can keep talking, but there's only 10 minutes left. So I'll just stop here. If there is any question directed to me, I'll be happy to answer in the Q&A. And thank you again.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Arif. And once again, thank you to all of our panelists for sharing all these precious insights and perspectives. And for our audience, we have several questions regarding access to the slides and also to the recording. We will make these available through our Slack channel, so make sure you send us an email at plantgrads@gmail.com. And yes, we will provide those resources for you. So we've had quite a lot of questions in the chat, and we've been trying to respond to them. What maybe there was a question that came in during the registration stage, which was if you don't have much research experience, you didn't do an REU, right? A lot of us were international students. I myself was an international student that didn't do an REU, right? Or a summer internship program. Or maybe if you don't have a publication yet, or if your GPA is, not really high, what do you do? How do you go about describing that in your personal statement? I know Mon mentioned, the possibility to do a postbac, which is a very great idea. But let's say if you really, really want to get to graduate school, do you have any suggestions on how to do that?
I can start. So if you have, let's say, a GPA you're not happy with, best thing to do is address that in your personal statement, right? The worst case scenario is if it's not addressed at all. And when the admissions committee discusses you, they're going to see it on your transcript, right? And they're not going to have the answers to their questions. And so you can address it in your personal statement. I do want to point out that now, starting with the most recent round, in addition to the personal statement, a lot of programs have an additional optional prompt. And this is due to the SCOTUS decision of last June 2023. And that prompt is along the lines, language will differ from program to program, but it's along the lines of, if you face any difficulties or adversities, please describe how it impacted your decision to go to graduate school, right? So then you have extra space to kind of address things like that, like if, what were your reasons for why you did not do so well as you might have liked. So definitely use that portion. So like I said, the last round was the first time like we installed that additional prompt. About 75% of applicants used it, but it's another, you have to look at it as another way that you can describe yourself to the committee, right? Now, if you don't have research experience, right, and you were not able to acquire it during your undergraduate, like Sesson said, there's a lot of postbac programs out there, right? Look into that. Do a year or two of working as a research tech. I've been at Cold Spring Harbor Lab in my role for 7 years now. I'm involved in the admission and selection process. And from year to year, I have noticed an increase of candidates that come in with additional experience after undergraduate, right? So it's getting rarer and rarer to see applicants that came straight out of undergraduate. So it's not uncommon to go and do 1 year or 2 years of postbac, to do 2-3 years of research tech, or to get a master's, let's say, right? So, if those options are available to you, definitely consider them seriously.
I can add a little bit for some international students. Some countries probably they don't have the scopes to in-person lab experiences, and I think it's fine. So there are many labs and many PIs are happy to teach people from the very beginning. And just to mention that and put that argument is very helpful, I think, from the beginning.
Jennifer, did you want to add something?
Oh, I
more
just
to that?
completely agree. I totally second what's been said, that if there are things that you perceive as potential weaknesses, like I've never done research, or man, I really bombed that class, address it, right? Just say something, because the people reviewing, they have enough experience. They're going to see everything, right? And all students' applications have strengths, weaknesses, right? It's perfectly fine. And almost the usual, right? Like Moon said, 75% of students use that option, right? I mean, this is life, right? So just say something about it. Like, man, I blew that, or I had this other thing, or I underestimated the amount of work, or I've never had the opportunity to do research, but I find it fascinating, right? Things like that, right? The more explanation, the more information you give us, the more we can consider your application from kind of the holistic perspective, right? And see you as an individual. So that's really helpful.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then another question, which was, and I will direct this to each of you. So if you had to choose, let's say, 3 aspects of a personal statement that can significantly influence the admissions committee decision or your decision on the application, what would they be? Let's start with Mon.
Three things about the personal statement.
Yes, yeah? 3 things that would significantly influence your decision when you read a personal statement.
I think when I read a personal statement, I'm looking for the person's, I'm trying to get to know the person, right? And so it's like, what, who are they? Like, what do they bring? Right? What would they bring to our community and our program here? And by what, it could be many different things, right? So of course, there's always the research experience, but it's like, I'm very much looking for somebody that, through the personal statement, I can see their enthusiasm, right? I can see their excitement for wanting to go to graduate school, right? So I try to look for that in the personal statement, right? And then the other thing I'm looking for is, because, our program at Cold Spring Harbor Lab is small and unique, we're always looking for fit, right? We're not a big umbrella program that you may find in a large university across the country. So it's like, if they are pointing out little things about our program that they really liked from just reading the website or talking to, then that really registers in my head that, okay, this person is serious, right? This person is serious about the program and really wants to come here, right? And then, I don't know, I can't think of a third one.
Okay.
3's a lot.
All right, Jennifer, do you have 2 or 3?
Yeah, I do. So as Noon said, I completely agree with her. You know, the first thing is going to be your motivation, right? Why are you applying? And why are you applying to this program, right? So like the program I represent is plant science and data, right? So you're going to want to tell me, okay, this is why I want this type of program with both the data science and the plants, right? This is why I want to do this. Second is, what kind of relevant background do you have, right? And it doesn't have to be a lot, but what's the strengths in those areas? Because you have to think about it as doing programs, I'm trying to match you with potential faculty, right? And match you with the program. So the more information I have about what you're bringing in with, the better I can find a match for you. And then I want to get some sense that you have an understanding of what graduate school requires, right? It doesn't mean you have to know a lot about graduate school. It doesn't mean you have to be an expert. You can be sort of like, I'm not sure, but you know, I have students who have said to me, I really want to do a PhD. And then they look like a great candidate. We bring them in for a visit and they say, can I finish this program in 2 years? And I go, if you're brilliant, right? It's not, a PhD is not designed for a 2-year, right? So I have to say, okay, well, you know, no, it's probably going to take you longer, right? So just some understanding of it does take an investment to get a PhD, right? And so something like, I want to do this because I know a PhD is what I need when I go to industry, or this is going to help me with my next career step, right? They're understanding a little bit about why this degree, why a PhD matters. Okay, now I'll pass it to Arif.
Arif, yes, you're three.
I'll hit to a very important point. I think probably all of you laugh. I think one of the rare things is originality in that statement later, because what happens, like, once we go for the application, we keep crafting it and we read other people's things and you start subconsciously copy pasting other people's story and motivation. And it actually, you know, when we go through all of these things, it looks like, oh, I heard this kind of song before. I watched this kind of movie before. And that actually throw your application in the mediocre pile, right? If I ask everyone, like, okay, why you want to do PhD? I think someone said, oh, you know, like my family, I'm the first gen. So this is kind of a big deal for me just to go as a PhD student. You know, like I'll be the first PhD holder for my family. You know, that touches people. When I will read that, maybe that I'll feel that, oh, this is original. And then at the same time, you have to think about, the institution is not only to serve your, you know, emotion and the goal, but you have to fit with the institution. So the more you study about the institution, you will find that, okay, in your personal statement, it will actually have a reflection. So for instance, I sometimes ask somebody that, okay, my lab is very small. Do you understand what does it mean to work in a small lab? They'll say, yeah, I can work with you. But I tell them, wherever you'll go, you'll see me. Are you okay with that? Because the lab is too small. So I think like all of these things, when they apply and then write the personal statement, I think the better way to start writing a personal statement without looking and reading someone else's personal statement, then it will be more original. You can craft it later, right? The more professional language. I'll stop here.
Okay, awesome. And just as a sort of joke, I put in the chat, you know, careful with ChatGPT. When you said originality, right? Admission committees notice. We all notice.
Don't do that.
Creativity and originality. It's really key. Be yourself, as Jennifer put in the chat. And with that, really thank you to all of our panelists for this great session. Thank you for the audience for their great questions. Please do keep in touch. Send us an email at plantgrads@gmail.com so we can include you in our Slack, and follow us on Twitter. And over the next months, we're also planning other sessions, even focus writing sessions where we can help you craft, you know, your personal statements, your CV, go over your writing. So watch out for that. And yes, thank you all. And it was great to launch our initiative like this. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Good luck, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Right.
Thanks. Yeah, Nikki, you can stop the recording now.